Hello, welcome to another episode of my Not Your Average Bible Studies. Thanks for checking out the video here. If you're new, welcome. If you're a returning listener, thank you really for coming back and spending your Sundays with me, or any day of the week really if you're finding me, but it's my Sunday routine here to spend at least 20 minutes reading. So thanks for joining me on my venture. It is June 29th, 2025, and today will be session 31. I am going to be picking back up where we left off, about, a third of a way maybe, through chapter 16 in Matthew. Going to pick up on verse 13. But just to touch base for a moment where we're at, right? And in case anyone might be brand new and familiar with Matthew already, or familiar with the New Testament, looking for different views, or looking to hear that beginning, you could check back at episode 30 and hear 1 through 12. Which I think is titled Food for Thought for Vipers, and something about the disciples forgetting food themselves, or forgetting the meaning of their bread, or I forget, but anyways, if you're interested to hear my thoughts on that sort of scenario, the scene that kicks off 16, you can certainly listen back at last week's episode. But for today, I think we'll pick up with 13, because it sort of is a scene break and into other events, right? So we'll stay in honoring the present moment and keep it moving, right? When Jesus came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi. Now, please forgive me for my stuttering and my poor pronunciations. Thank you. I guess beginner here, I said, right? I've never read this before. I'm certainly not well-versed in other languages, geography, or history. I'm a basic American who was educated through a crappy Rockefeller indoctrination system of the 90s, if you could imagine. But I've tried to break myself free. I'm trying to teach myself, new things and real things, and try out things that are different and that perhaps were hid from us or me, over the last 20 years. But by no means, a global sort of well-spoken person, and this is a bit of fumbling, and I've said this before, so if you're not new, then you already know my disclaimer here with my poor pronunciations and such, but just in case, one more time, we'll say it. Anyways, he arrives on these coasts. He asks his disciples, saying, "Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" Now, I think this is so interesting, and especially, myself as kind of a newbie to the whole story, and I don't really know exact timelines, or I haven't heard this 100,000 times, So it's so interesting to hear the things he says, and where the thinking mind is at, in order to kind of ask these questions. Forever the teacher, forever, wanting to see how others are seeing, seeing through their eyes, and taking that into account in his own operations, in his own, processes in the world, and the way he interacts and sees the world. I think, it's really phenomenal. And like I've said many times in Energetic Alchemist, like mastery of understanding how we're all fractal reflections of each other, and how there is this constant reverberation, communication on other levels that happens with truth and lies, and with around belief in energy and polarity, intentions and capabilities of processes of rectification and corrections and healing. It's I love how he asks, who do they think the Son of Man am? It's very deep. And it asks me to ask myself that as well, And I think also he, would be asking his disciples to question this as well. Well, who do you think they think I am? And, it's like, not in an egotistical way either, not like a rock star trying to confirm some kind of false image and, pillared state of coolness, like epic, epitome of some kind of idol. But in fact, to bring the truth out to it, really, to make sure that it's most transparent, and that if it is distorted, if it is malaligned, that, he can confront it in a correct way. Let's get back to the words. How about that? 14. And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremias, and one of the prophets. He saith unto them, but whom say ye that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Now, one thing that I really appreciate in the language, and that I've talked about a couple of different times, but I'll bring up again, is this alignment with truth and with the real organic template, with the original intelligent design's intention. It's architecture, I have said many times in many different ways, especially in my more metaphysical systems, conversations and teachings, about the reverberation of positive service and service to others is actually a holistic model, and it is the real truth, it is the way, because it incorporates all, and because it came from the great before and after. Many things can happen in the here and now, and in fact all things should be explored again to fullest desire of the Son of Man before everything comes together again, before you can come to your own perfect image, your own placeholder as a Son of Man, which I think each one of us has, but I think that Jesus fully embodied and was actively aware of and operating from. And he says this many times, trying to open people's eyes to the variable placeholder that the words are. That the Father is not. The Father is the infinite one, connectivity and connector of all. The original source point of it all. Right? But that we are of the creation. And so I think when he says, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God, right? The truth and the epitome of the manifestation of that inaction, of that carnal manifestation that is life, to be incarnated into life, to be the living God. And I think, again, the disciples understand the language, the deep meaning of each word, sort of the code that they are, because they've been initiated, because they've spoken language, because they've been teaching and learning across different dynamics, different translations, and different touch points and exposure points of these things to what they can mean. And so they can hear the message very much more directly and distinctly in what he's saying, I think. And though others who are perhaps confused or perhaps comparing him with others are missing the point in the living word and in what it is to really be living your truth, your true fractal representation and connection and birthright to the Father, to the great truth. Okay, so we left at 16 with Simon Peter answering. Pick it up at 17. And Jesus answered and said unto him, oh, I did read this. Right? We'll read it again. Blessed art thou, Simon Barjona, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. This is the other thing I meant to say too. Proof isn't in the external confirmations. It's not in the flesh. It's not something that, like perhaps others might be seeking in connection to linking him to John the Baptist or the things prophets would say. All of these sort of displays that are markers in the temporal real world, in the real world, versus the confirmations in the temporal world, in the inner studies and in the knowings that come from within, that the truth, following your truth is really about. And that when you unlock what is your truth and what is unconditional love and what is that true bestowing of the kingdom of heaven, and understand the brotherhood of it and the sonship of it, there's no going back. There's no different two ways about it, so to speak. So I think, again, that's what he means. He's sort of giving them the confirmation by saying, remember, it's not about those external confirmations or any of those things. It's about the knowing you've had within you, that confirmation that you've seen, those little synchronicities, those personal markers, those tiny, most private and personal confirmations that nobody else would even notice, that are sent so divinely to you, that we discover on that inner path. Those are the things that prove things. That is the knowing of the Father. And he's asking, or reminding them of that, right? And so, and I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I really like that. And I've heard different things about, of course, Peter and the name change, and then what it is to build upon the rock, and the many things that have been built upon that rock that might be perhaps quite different in landscape and meaning and view and all of that. So I'm not going to get too deep into it because I just don't feel as, educated around it to really have or hold opinions, but I do sort of hear the deepness there. But also, the great manipulations that could happen, But to know that when we live in truth, that nothing, even the gates of hell, can prevail against it. Because those things in themselves are not real. Not to say that hell in itself is not real. I think it's a very experienceable mind state, but I just don't think it's, actually I don't want to get into my opinions of that. Not today. I could talk for quite a while on that, and I have no firm basis either, other than my own sort of inner points. Maybe I'll do a behind the scenes kind of thing about that later at another point. Anyways, just to know that no hardships, no evil, no badness, no limitations or restrictions of any kind can impede or change what is the truth. It's not possible. It's like no shadow can change a light source. And we'll pick it up at 19. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. I love how he kind of goes back to these same mantras and these same teaching points, these same sort of metaphysical metaphors, because they are applicable in so many different scenarios. And I know this from my own sort of going over my own spiritual teachings and combing through different points of knowledge of my own, that certain things become viable. It's almost like the oyster creating a pearl over time. There's these large pieces that you have to sort of chew on to find your own smoothness within. And again, there's the great metaphor of the casting pearls to pigs and everything, and how long it takes to make a pearl and what these pearls really mean, pearls of wisdom, say. Very interesting, very symbolic. And same thing with here, what he's saying about binding on earth and what you set free. I always hear my system's jargon when he talks in this way, and my create freedom, not slavery slogan. Because whatever that we choose to entrap in a hierarchy of the slave master cycle that is a negative entrapment, it entangles creator source with the thing it's created, saying that its value and worth is tangibly tied to and reflected by service and operation of said creation. And it doesn't allow for true freedom for said creation to actually operate as an individual ever, because it will always have this extension cord sort of plugged into the source. And this is not correct, because this is organically already a part of the great ether architecture by our original creator, by Great Father. And we don't need to create that. That's already instantaneous and happens organically. And when we trust it and just know it's there and operate from positivity, we know that there's great netting already holding and linking all together. We don't need to cast out this other thread and hearken into it and siphon off of it energy, worth, pump our ego up from it, check back in, micromanage it in some kind of way. We're creating a slavery there when we do that, in fact. And then when we become a master, we're actually enslaving, because we're confirming that these cycles are right and true. And then it becomes counterproductive to actual free creation, actual freedom and sovereignty, and to be your own gnosis point in the coordinate plane of the Great Father of all of creation. And you can't create from love in that kind of way. And when you do try to, it's going to have these distorted backlashes and incorrect ripple effects that create a dissonance instead of a wonderful harmony around you. And and those are things that I came to, through my systems coursework, and now I'm creating a workbook sort of study guide based on those original 6-level videos that I did maybe last year or a year and a half ago now. If you're interested in metaphysical learning like that, I'll leave a link perhaps in the comments to those. They are on my old YouTube channel, which I'm locked out of. And there's about 40 or 50 videos, I forget, but if you start in level 1, it's so great. And it's what he's talking about here, about binding things on earth. or setting things free. And I talk a lot about that and how you can do good work for your own energetic system to work to create from a space of freedom. Set your creations and yourself free each time. Set others around you free. Freedom means freedom of interaction. You can come and go as you please. It doesn't mean never again. It's not cut off and disassociated from. And in fact, you can associate more deeply and practice unconditional love in a more tangible way when we operate from this place in space. It's not to say that it's easy and not to say that it's one and done and all of a sudden you just become something that does this all the time. 3 years, 2.5 years into trying to do this kind of work, and it's moment to moment throughout the day where you have to come back into it. But it's the commitment. It's where it works, what happens, where the change is at. And because of that commitment and promise, again, to being a part of living the Word and being in your Christ-gnosis, it becomes more and more each time. And you want to come back to it more and more. And the better it gets, the better it gets. If I could quote Teal Swan. But anyways, let's keep going. I'm already at my 20-minute marker, but we'll see. Pick it up with 20. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Jesus the Christ. From that time forth began Jesus to shew unto his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised again on the third day. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. Now, when I read that for the very first time, I put it down. I was like, wow. I was so impressed, surprised, relieved. It was a breath of fresh air to see this type of stance on truth and this type of immediate rebuttal and just correction, and a straightforwardness to call him Satan in that way and to say, go away from me. You can't bear the light and walk forward with me in the directionality of my ray because it's too bold for you. You can't, it's a weakness, in fact, and it shows such great strength, I think, I will. I'm going to let those words speak for themselves, and we'll keep reading, because I think as we approach, the crucifixion and things, I'll be talking more and more about the parallels and the metaphysical alchemy and transmutations that happen when we let our lies die and when we stand in the light of truth and are reborn again in that light. Pure, more translucent, and honoring in that light. Something very close to my heart, very important to me. And obviously, seemed very important to Jesus too, of course. Then Jesus said unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and let him take up his cross and follow me. Right? Just like I said, you have to be willing to stand in your own truth, as hard as it is, to take up that great journey, to want to walk in the light, to want to bear your burdens, to want to do better, and to do your best, and to see the best in all. And again, I love this. He's so plain about some of this stuff, and we'll get into this more as it comes up. But just to know, they might kill me, and they're probably going to hunt you down and persecute you too, just to let you know. It's like, if it's truth is truth, and if that's how you feel, if you know the kingdom of heaven and you know where you're going, you'd have absolutely no qualms with standing for now, as short or long as life might be, and for whatever endings or whatever catalyst, obstacles, or challenges come to meet you. When you have that knowing, all of it seems worth it. All of it is worth it, in fact, because you know it's of worth, if all things are on purpose with purpose. So yeah, I think that's where he comes from, and what he's saying here. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whomsoever will lose his life for my sake will find it. And again, for my sake, for truth's sake, for true love's sake, for true unconditional love of the infinite Creator. For what is a man profited if he shall gain a whole new world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. I love that. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. And of course, that's the end of the chapter, and that is just ringing on a high note here. I love the empowerment of it. Truth is so invigorating. Even just standing in your own truth, I find such a burning, energetic fuel circulating through me, and it's a wonderful, positive, healing vibration. Hear a dog out there barking in celebration as well. Happy dogs, happy life. It's a beautiful day outside where I am. I hope it is a beautiful day where you are. Even if it's not, we have the power of choice. That is what we're bestowed with, right? So choose to have a beautiful day, to stay grateful for even the smallest things, be it breath in your lungs and a beat of the heart. If you're alive, it's on purpose with purpose. And when we face our ends, I believe that is divinely on purpose and divine timing as well. So with that said, I guess I'll bring it to an end here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. I hope I'll see you next week. Hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, sacred Sunday, or whatever day of the week it is if you're listening on another day. Enjoy it. Thank you for your beautiful contribution to our collective. We wouldn't be the same without you or without me. Thanks for witnessing mine. And we'll see you next time.